Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Real Sports Updates here. Another live stream. Today, I want to talk about the Brian Flores situation. Um, it's very multi-layered, multifaceted. This has a potential to get ugly for the NFL. There's just so much news, and there's so much drama and whatnot going on, like just surrounding the whole entire situation. So this is going to be complex. It's going to take a while to play out, but let's talk about it for a little bit. So, what was it? 2 days? No, 3 days ago. Brian Flores, he filed a lawsuit, a civil lawsuit against the NFL. Um, all 32 teams, but I think he specifically mentioned the Dolphins and the Giants in this lawsuit. Based off of racial discrimination, racial discriminatory hiring practices that the NFL, that he claims the NFL undertakes, they're hiring head coaches and whatnot. Um, and, that lawsuit just based off of the perception that the NFL has based off of the raw number of black head coaches that are there. There's obviously merit to it. The NFL responded with a statement that said that there was absolutely no merit to it, and this and that, and you know, to be honest with you, that can be talked about until the cows come home. We all know that the NFL doesn't really hire black coaches on a a larger scale. They're not given opportunity, um, on a large scale, and there's several, you know, several assistant coaches in the league, several black assistant coaches in the league um, who are well qualified to have an opportunity to be able to lead a team, be able to lead a franchise as a head coach. But it doesn't happen, and I think that is that's one of the darker sides of the NFL. We can see it with our own eyes. Out of all 32 teams, there's only one black head coach, and and that's just because the Steelers, um, the Steelers do business in a different way. They don't fire and hire coaches. Mike Thomas has been there for 15 years, so it's not even that they've hired him or have really you know are really into the whole giving minorities opportunity. The Steelers just don't like to fire coaches, and that's just how they run their show. That's how they run their ship. That's honestly how they've been successful, for most of their tenure in the NFL. But the whole Mike Tomlin thing being there, just like it to me, it's as good as zero. But there's obviously merit to what he's saying. There's merit to the fact that you look at Eric Bieniemy. He's a guy with the Chiefs. He's been a offensive coordinator now for what 4 or 5 years, I believe. Um, he worked his way up. He spent a lot of time under Andy Reid. He really cut his teeth under Andy Reid. He's gotten his offensive philosophy. He learned all of his, the nuances of coaching, all that stuff. He learned it under Andy Reid. And he worked his way up, and he was bumped up the ladder after Doug Peterson left to take the Eagles job, and then he worked his way up again after Matt Nagy was named the head coach of the Chicago Bears 4 or 5 years ago. So I think looking at him and looking at the way that he has not really been given an opportunity, a real opportunity to lead a team. I think that's very damning on the NFL. Especially look at your Reid coaching tree. He's had a lot of success from his coaching tree, and for a guy like Bieniemy to not be able to get an opportunity, over these past 3 years, these past three hiring cycles, there's been on average, 7 to 8 teams that need a coach every single season. I think it was up to like 9 this year. And obviously before the team started, hiring coaches, it was up to 9 teams. So if you want to take on average 7 to 8 teams for these past 3 years, so that's 21 to 24 head coaching opportunities, and Bieniemy has been passed up for everyone. So that's kind of a definitely a red flag, especially when it comes to this lawsuit with Flores and stuff. It's not doesn't look good for the league. You look at a guy like even a Todd Bowles last year. Todd Bowles was the guy who he shut Mahomes down, he shut the Chiefs down. They didn't score a touchdown in the Super Bowl. And Todd Bowles was the guy that did this on defense, and he's obviously been in the league for a really long time. He has really close ties to Bruce Arians and his coaching staff, but he's been in the league for a while. He had a chance, the opportunity with the Jets, and that's not saying much. The Jets are one of the most disorganized franchises, one of the most turmoil franchises in football. So you get a head coaching opportunity with them, and if you don't do anything within the first couple of years, you're going to get fired. Same thing with Robert Saleh. The clock is ticking on him now too. If the Jets don't do anything, and they give him nothing to work with. He has a rookie quarterback, bad offensive line, bad defense, just a bad roster in general. And they expect him to maybe make the Jets into a playoff team. It's nearly impossible with the dysfunction that the franchises like that go through. So for minority head coaches, it really is a give and take. You can take one of these jobs, go to a dysfunctional franchise, lose 3 years and it has nothing to do with your coaching. It has everything to do with the dysfunction in the organization, the bad drafting, the bad free agent signings, just bad roster in general. And, next thing you know, you're out of the league. So it really is it's a tough situation that some of these black head coaches are in. I don't think that a lot of them are set up to succeed. They're not given time to succeed. They're not given the proper resources to succeed. They're not given a huge say in personnel. They're not really given anything that they need to succeed as far as success. And when you speak in terms of wins and losses, that type of success, they don't really have the tools to do that. So you look at a David Culley this year, with the Texans. He's a one and done. He comes into a bad situation where the previous head coach Bill O'Brien had made, he had GM powers and he made a bunch of bad trades. He traded, DeAndre Hopkins for a second round pick. He pretty much dismantled the roster. They had some salary cap issues as well too. And then you have the Deshaun Watson situation on top of that as well too. The Texans draft Davis Mills out of the draft, so he's coaching a rookie quarterback all season, and he doesn't have anything to work with on the roster. As far as talent and stuff, they go out and sign a bunch of old guys on 1-year deals, and they end up 4-13, and he ends up losing his job. And the reason they gave for that was that they had David Culley had different philosophical issues than the rest of the franchise, rest of the organization. I don't know, some BS excuse like that, which is absolutely ridiculous. This guy had no shot to succeed at all. And being honest with you, 4 wins for the Texans, well, I thought that was a success for them this season. I didn't. They definitely had the capabilities to win one game or maybe go 0-17 too. It just wasn't there. It wasn't there for them. They didn't have anything. So 4 wins for the Texans, and then that big win at the end of the year where they beat the Chargers. They put up 41 points against the Chargers. That was a big win. So they did get better as the season got on. they were able to progress and they were moving in the right direction. But nope, you're out of here. You know, thank you for your 1 year. Here's however much $10 million to get rid of you and you're out of here. So and David Culley will probably never be a head coach in the league again, and that's just what the reality is. But I the biggest example of that is Brian Flores. The guy who filed this lawsuit. He is one of the best defensive coaches in the league by far. Especially with the roster construction that was going on in Miami. There wasn't very much defensively. You had some good players. They're not they're not the 2000 Ravens or anything like that. They have a lot of young players on defense. So what Brian Flores did defensively was very impressive with the Dolphins. Then all three seasons that he was there, he beat Bill Belichick. I think he beat him 4 or 5 times in 3 seasons. Like, that's really saying something to that credit has to be given to him for that. With the uncertainty of quarterback with Tua and all the Deshaun Watson stuff that came up in the middle of the season as well. Too, they went on what did they go on, an 8-game win streak or something like that in the middle of the season? Like, that's impressive. That's nothing to turn your nose up at. That is a very, very, very hard thing to do in the NFL, and I think a lot of people recognize that this season. Especially with the offense. Their offense was not good. Their offense was terrible, and he does have to take some credit for that as the I don't want to say take credit for it, take responsibility for the offense not being as good because he is the head coach. And I think that's something that he has done. He has acknowledged that he didn't get the offensive coordinator right, but there's only so much say that you can have as a head coach. Especially bringing in coordinators and all of that stuff. You can bring in who you want, but the ownership and GM, they're the ones that have to really have the final say on who you hire and whatnot. So all things considered, I think Brian Flores did a great job in Miami. It was surprising and shocking when he was let go by the Dolphins. So I think his case in particular serves as the biggest example of these black coaches not getting the best opportunity, not necessarily the best opportunities, but even the a fair opportunity to prove themselves. I know that Brian Flores was a big fan of Justin Herbert as well too. I know he wanted to draft him coming out of the draft a couple of years ago, but he was overridden by the owner and the GM, owner Stephen Ross and the GM Chris Greer. They decided to go with Tua, out of Alabama instead of Justin Herbert. And I think that Brian Flores is I think he's a no-nonsense guy. He's a tough guy, but he's also gonna voice his opinion. And I'm sure that he was all over Chris Greer these past 2 seasons. Looking at the plays that Justin Herbert has been making on a weekly basis. All the records that he shattered in his first 2 seasons in the league. Beating Mahomes and stuff multiple times. Like, I'm sure he let Chris Greer know, and probably was consistent about him. Like, you made the wrong decision, and we're in this position because of your decision making. And that I feel like that's fair. If you're a GM, you got to eat it. You had a chance to draft this guy. And some of the stuff we heard about Herbert coming out, he's not a good leader, he's too quiet, and all this stuff. All of that has been proven to be wrong. And all of some of the things that you heard about Tua, that's proven to be wrong as well too. He hasn't performed. He really hasn't performed as well as he should have, as well as he needed to. There's still questions. More questions there than answers. So I think Brian Flores was really upset about that, and I think he really was not probably not the best guy to be around. Especially if you are in the front office. But it is what it is. This lawsuit's going to go forward. I don't think the NFL is going to be able to get him to settle. He seems like a pretty headstrong guy, so he seems like he is 100% on this, and he seems like he wants to you know enact some type of change here. And he's acknowledged it several times on the morning shows that he potentially putting his career at risk, and he's put the future of his coaching career is at risk, and it's on the line now. So he's acknowledged that, and I think he would be okay if he wouldn't coach again. If he can make some type of change, then I think he's okay with that. And he doesn't seem like a fair weather guy. He seems like once he puts his feet down and he's in something, he's dug in. So I mean, we'll see where that goes from here. It's going to be very interesting. There's going to be a lot of news dumps, over the next couple of months, probably, especially after the Super Bowl. Once the Super Bowl is done with and all of that is, the season is completed, then this will probably be at the front, on the front page of all the newspapers, and this will probably lead a lot of the shows as well too. So that's that as far as the coaches, the coaching goes, and the black coaches and all of that. The other thing that happened, the more serious allegation, at least in my opinion, is that the Dolphins owner Stephen Ross, him allegedly trying to bribe Brian Flores with $100,000 per loss to, basically tank the season and try to, be able to get the highest draft pick. I think they wanted Joe Burrow. They wanted to draft Joe Burrow in that Tua draft. They didn't though. They ended up drafting fifth. They drafted Tua fifth, and the previous season for that allegation to come out, for Brian Flores to bring that forward, and for him to put his name to that is very, very big. And I think that is something that can harm the NFL, like to no end. That has a potential criminal, criminal prosecution. That's all of that stuff is on the table when he brought that forward. And if I'm the NFL, I would be the most worried about that. The minority coaches and all that stuff is going to go on. The NFL has to fight this first, though. And I thought it was interesting when the lawsuit was reported, when it was first reported. I thought it was interesting. The NFL statement right afterwards was that this is unequivocally false. That basically Brian Flores was lying about the Stephen Ross trying to bribe him for losses. I thought that was very interesting when they came out and said this is unequivocally false without even really knowing anything about the situation, because obviously if this did happen, the NFL wouldn't know about this, because this goes against pretty much all of the rules that are set out. It goes against everything in the bargaining. Teams are expected to operate in good faith. This is this is federal, legislation as far as sports goes and sports betting and all that stuff. Every team has to operate in good faith, meaning you have to go out there whenever you have a game. You have to go out there and you have to play the game to win. You cannot go out there and throw games for any reason at all. If you're in a game, you have to play to win, and that's pretty much what the statute is across the board in all of professional sports, and college sports as well too. High level college sports, it gets better on. Every team has to go out there and operate in good faith. This is competition, and you have to play to win. Because if you don't, and if you're trying to shave points and all this stuff, then you probably will be prosecuted. The people responsible for it will be prosecuted for it, and there's precedent for this. With the whole, going back to, I think it was 1918, where with the Black Sox scandal, when they threw the White Sox through the World Series. You can go back to Pete Rose, with him gambling on baseball. Um, he's been effectively banned from baseball. He'll never make the Hall of Fame, and the MLB doesn't even acknowledge him. Even though I think his case was a little different. I don't think that he. I can't remember. I'll have to go back and research, but his case was a little different. But I know that he was betting on baseball as an active player, so I obviously cannot do that. I think back to the 1994 Arizona State the point shaving scandal with the player. I think his name was Stelvin Smith, I believe. Where he was on campus and he was hooked up with a bookie on campus that went to Arizona State, and he agreed to try to shave points and stuff, and people were going to the sports books in Las Vegas and betting huge amounts on Arizona State, whether they win or lose, and so there is precedent for this. And this Stelvin Smith, he did end up doing some prison time for that, and this was just college basketball in 1994, right? So there is for this if there is if everything, all the allegations prove to be true, there's precedent for people doing jail time for this. And obviously, if this is true, Stephen Ross cannot own, any sports franchise anymore. He would have to be forced to sell, and that's something that the owners, all 31 owners, would definitely agree on. You obviously cannot do that, and it brings into question the integrity of the game. And it's really just a slippery slope that the NFL does not want to go down, because if Stephen Ross is doing it, who else is doing it? And the Dolphins haven't even really been. They've been one of the worst franchises the past 20 years. They haven't been the worst though. You look at a team. You look at a Washington. Dan Snyder. What's he doing? What is the Ford family doing in Detroit? You look at these teams who have just been awful, perpetually awful for the past, several decades. And you look at them and you wonder, this can make you wonder, what are they doing now? Are they, involved in something that they shouldn't be involved in? I think it's a fair question to ask now with these type of allegations coming out. Teams who just cannot get it together one way or another, and you look at these teams, you look at a Bengals, Cincinnati Bengals, right? These guys have not been good. A lot of things have been said about the owner, that he's cheap and whatnot. And, obviously it's not great, but it's not against the law, to be cheap or to try to save money or, to penny pinch here and there. But the Bengals are in the Super Bowl now. They got it right. They got the right guy. They got the right GM in place. They got the right coach in place. They got the right quarterback. And the team is in the Super Bowl now. So, you look at even a team like the Raiders, the Vegas Raiders, right? A lot can be said about the Raiders, how, they're just not good or whatever, but they snuck into the playoffs this year through a bunch of dysfunction. Coaches' emails, the racists, and, all the crazy language, those emails, multiple arrests. You had a player, kill somebody, and he'll probably be doing some serious jail time. Like they've had, just a mood of situations that other teams just fold under, but they ended up making the playoffs, and they ended up playing well at the end of the season too, the playoffs. And the roster is not constructed with a bunch of superstars either. So it just goes to show you that it's not the most difficult thing to get your team right. The right players, the right guys in front office who can make your team viable. And not saying you have to build a Super Bowl contender, but to not be viable for multiple decades. Like what these owners getting in, do they not care, or a lot of questions be asked, and I think that's the slippery slope that the NFL is going down right now. You don't want to get into you know the conversations integrity of um, it, if public perception about your game is that you know integrity, um, people aren't going to believe in what they're seeing. You know, it's going to be pretty much a clown show, and this is what it can turn into and respond to this in the right manner. And by in the right manner, I mean um, not just, you know, of course, the NFL want to defend itself, all that stuff, but the NFL has to look into these allegations. If there's any truth, they pull franchise steroids, and there's that precedent that's not going to happen anymore. Not have this happen, because this will be a epic. And this not only just affect the NFL, but affects the industries out there, you know, right? Most of these sports betting, you know, there's a lot of right now trying to legalize and think that's going to help, right? And legalize sports betting everywhere. And you know, it's not really that it'll be legal everywhere federally, but you know, there's a different story we're going to talk, and you're going to have the debate, bring it to their house floors and all that stuff. The more states that you get betting on the NFL, the more states that you get legal, the more the NFL makes, because people have the game, you know, so to speak, not just watching it, enjoying the skin. You know, they have on it and all this stuff. People are gonna watching and get more information. You know, the weekly show, all this stuff, NFL Network, all that ratings and go if people are on the game because they want to perform before they, you know, put money online and make their and all that stuff. So the more you have, the more you make, and the more successful the league. But this obviously is a odd league. It cannot stand for this. And if there is going on, the league has to own it. It would be behooving to do that and not carry on the stuff from the back, because it look like the end on there, the in, and this will tank some industries, and the NFL will feel it. NFL will feel it, and there are like federal laws, so you really don't want to get involved with the feds. You don't want to have the feds come in, you know, bust up books and have a look at everything and question everything, and you know, do all this stuff, and all you get ugly if it comes to that. The NFL needs to do their own investigation. They need to be approach. They have to be themselves. They need to you know, they need to approach it. If, you know, there's something to be found, there's nothing to be found. Right? If there is something to be found, you need to take care of it. But before it's, you know, even worse, because you don't, what they're not going to do is be in a situation where, you know, you find out that we're fixed, you know, the GM or the, you know, the owner or body, you know, staff at any and fixes and all that stuff. You're gonna have to go back games, how much was bet on them, how much, you know, people lost on all that stuff, to be open to the last to the sports books and Caesars, you know, all places are going to sue the things, you know, and you know, pretty much their bottom. You know, so it's just get bad. It really can get bad. I think the NFL should do thing. Um, this will be a black cloud on this until it's away. Until it's and I think the NFL should tread lightly. They should lightly. I think you know, and they should also be careful with how they characterize everybody going forward. Brian Flores, Jackson, these like coaches who are bad with teams, out and something. They need dirt. They need to care why they carry these guys. Because if they start with the bad PR and the PR avalanche and all this, people are going to stop and think, what are they doing to try to hide? Is it there's a lot of issues that go on with this? I don't feel like feel. I don't feel like they should, try to pop along or just try to hide this and try to bring stories out and distract people. This is not going away. This is not going away to the NFL. It makes it go away so they do what's right and make this monster again. But it is right now. I expect it to grow by, especially after this. We're coming on. We're getting into Super Bowl week, so I expect a lot of the focus on the game and whatnot. But as soon as the thing over, man, they're gonna have some in their hands if they don't handle this the right way. But I hope they do. I really hope they do. If they do, then that's well. If not, then we'll be for a very wild off. So just stay tuned for that was just quick thoughts on what's going on here. Be monitoring the situation. Once more information comes out, and I'll speak about it, analyze it, and from there. But as for now, it's going to be the mind of everybody, and I expect moves several within the next few months. So could get interesting. Buckle up your seats if you're a NFL fan. Can get it really interesting, and just look out for more news that's coming out regarding the situation. So that's all I got today. See you guys tomorrow. Might be able to talk about game on Super Bowl weekend. Coming in this whole week, so we're going to be away. So probably start covering the game. Some of the storylines going to it as well too. So that's all I got for today. I'll see you guys later.